Kimberly from Dirt Floor Fibers, and I'm really excited about the beginning of this new series that I'm starting. So I'm hoping this year I have a little bit of a turn of direction for my business. Last year it was kind of my goal to just go ahead and get started. I opened up my online store. It didn't have very much stuff in it, but I got it at least up and running, which was a huge step for me. And I also was having a table down at the Urbana Farmers Market. Now I had a lot of fun, met a lot of really great people doing that, but I'm kind of ready to go ahead and take the next step. So I decided that in order to get my hand spun and hand dyed yarn, as well as my finished products in front of more people, that I would sign up for some larger craft fairs. And so I may have just made a horrible mistake. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But my first craft show is going to be in Fredericksburg that first weekend of April. I think it's like the 2nd and 3rd or 3rd and 4th or something like that. And it's going to be at the Fredericksburg Expo Center, Conference Center. I'm not really sure what they call it, but it's the Fredericksburg Spring Arts and Crafts Fair. Now, this was a little bit of a leap of faith for me. I'm a little bit nervous about it because the table fee is super high. Like we're talking, I think it was like $357 for a table for the spring market. I've also put down deposits for the fall and winter craft markets, which those I'm going to approach a little bit differently from the spring one, but I'll talk about all of that later. But those ones are even more expensive. So I'm kind of looking at this first show in April as a little bit of a way to test the waters, to kind of figure out what products are selling right now, what I should do more of, what doesn't do very well. And so I'm just hoping that that's going to be a little bit of a test for me, even if it doesn't turn out quite as I plan. So I am going to take you through my process of planning and finally exhibiting at a craft market. I am not an expert by any means. This is the first time I've done a big show like this, so take absolutely everything I do with a grain of salt. At the end, I will tell you what went well and what absolutely crashed and burned, so maybe you'll have a better idea of what you want to do if you are going to craft markets yourself or you're thinking about possibly doing one. One of the things that I found really hard about this process is that I'm someone who likes to plan and likes to have answers, and I like to research, but no matter what I've done preparing for a market like this, there are no answers. I've watched just about every video I can find on YouTube. I've followed people, I've read blogs, but because everyone's slightly different and a lot of people kind of keep their trade secrets close to the vest, it's hard to find really, really specific answers for things. So the first thing I decided to tackle was my booth setup. Now, this is kind of starting in the wrong direction. Really should start with your products, right? But I had to have some pictures to apply for some other fairs, and I've changed my setup so much since the farmers market that I didn't want to use any of my pictures from that to apply for these newer markets because I think my display is a lot better right now. And basically I've set it up. I'm expecting a 10 by 10 space. I don't really have a 10 by 10 space in my house to set something up. So I've done the best I can in my studio. I was working on redoing it, and I made a lot of progress and it looked great. And then I tore it all apart to put this up. I didn't quite make a 10 by 10 space just because I still wanted to be able to access the closets on the side of my room where I store all my stuff. So I'm kind of working with like an 8 by 6 foot sort of space, but that just shows me it'll fit just fine inside of the 10 by 10 space and still give me a little bit of room to walk around the edges or have my spinning wheel set up so that I can demonstrate while I'm there. I'll try to sneak in some of my other videos, little snippets from them. I've started filming this video like 3 or 4 times, and every time I'm like, no, that's horrible. I don't like the way that's going. I'm going to change everything. And so I've scrapped it. So this is the video that's going up though. Yes. But I'll go ahead and try to sneak in some of those other clips as well so you can see me setting up. But I'll turn you around and I'll show you what I have so far, and then I'll tell you what my next steps are going to be. So give me a second and I'll turn you around.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Ha! Stressed out, out of my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want.
All right, so this is my basic setup. I'm gonna kind of spin you around in a circle so you can get a sense of what the space kind of looks and feels like, and then I'll walk you around and kind of tell you what my ideas are. So like I said, this is actually taking up kind of an 8x6 space. My table in the back here is an 8-foot table, and then this one over here is a 6-foot table. I got both of these from Walmart. They're just your standard folding table. They are really heavy, but that means that they're really nice and sturdy. So I've been really pleased with this purchase. I did use those at the farmer's market, so those are really great. Normally at the farmer's market too, I also had a like folding screen sort of deal where I could hang things from and add extra shelves to it. It's actually back in that corner right now, but I just felt like I wasn't sure if I would have enough stuff to fill it properly, and then I wasn't sure if I would have also enough room to set up my spinning wheel to be able to demonstrate, and it was really important to me that I be able to actually do that and talk to people about my process right there in the booth. So let's go ahead and start from over here. So this is, instead of getting a banner, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it on a table or hang it from the back of my tent, but of course the craft fair in Fredericksburg's in size, I don't know. So instead of getting a banner, I got one of these signs from Vistaprint. It's actually the canvas, like a printed canvas. I waited until they were on sale, and the quality is actually really, really nice. I got the metal stand, the picture frame stand from Hobby Lobby. The only downside, if you can see, is that the canvas is just ever so slightly too thick to actually fit down in the brackets where a picture frame would go, but it seems to be balancing nicely on top, so I'm hoping that'll be sturdy enough to make it through the fair. All these little crates I got from IKEA. They also have similar ones at like Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby or whatever, but the IKEA ones feel a little bit sturdier to me, so it was worth the extra few dollars. If you go to the craft fair or the craft, try that again. If you go to the craft store, like a big box craft store, you can usually have coupons that'll help you bring down the cost. Wasn't the case at IKEA, but I figured the extra quality was kind of worth it. There is some assembly acquired. I mean, it is IKEA. The other thing is that you have to do a little quality control. I can't remember which crate it was, so I can't show it to you, but one of them, the like side slats weren't put in properly when it was manufactured, and so it's like not square at all. But now that I have it set up, you can't really tell, so I'm not too worried about it. But you do have to do a little quality control with their crates when you're in the store. I've watched some videos on different ways people have set up crate walls, and I really like kind of this where you do like the long one and then vertical and then long again, and it creates that little extra pocket in the middle. It just makes them a little bit higher than just stacking two of them like this way on top of each other. So I do like that. It does create these deeper bins though that I'm not 100% convinced about. It does make it a little bit trickier to get some of the yarns on the bottom out, and I think I'll have to keep rearranging them, but I'm also working on different ways of displaying the yarn too. That was another struggle for me. A lot of the videos online that show people setting up for craft fairs, they're selling things like prints or, finished crocheted items or, things like that. I can't find anybody who's just selling yarn who is doing one of these displays on, you know, YouTube or Instagram or whatever. So I've been looking at like yarn store displays and things like that, but hasn't really helped me out too much. So if anyone has a good vlog or blog that they read or follow, let me know. Because I want some more ideas on actually making the yarn look good in these boxes. So I think what I'm going to do in all of the crates is that I'm going to put my hand-dyed yarn. I can keep more underneath the table. You can easily see the colors. I'll go over what bases I'm going to be bringing a little bit later or in a different video, but I think those will all fit in the crates quite nicely. I think it can fit around 200 skeins of yarn in the crates. If they're packed in, maybe a little bit less if I arrange them more nicely, but that's basically what that looks like. And then my hand spun, I've kind of realized I really like in these baskets. These baskets, I believe, are from Target. I have another set of baskets that are similar, but they have like little handles on the side and they're shaped a little bit differently. I can't remember if I got those from IKEA or if I also got those from Target. I think they're from IKEA. But they match these well enough that if I need more black baskets, I can bring those with me. But I like being able to see the hand spun a little bit more easily like this rather than stacked. I think it'll be a little bit more gentle when people go to take them out. They won't be scraping against the sides of the wood. So I like that. I don't know if I'll bring any of my spinning fiber or not. Being a spring market, I don't know if there are going to be any spinners there. I don't know if anyone's going to be looking for things like this. So these might stay at home depending on how much other inventory I have to bring. Same with things like my pom-pom bowl. They always look cute, so I like those, but I don't know how popular they'll be at the spring market. So I just got my bowl out for right now as a possibility, as a display item. But yeah, I've got more baskets set on top. That's one of those other black baskets. I want to have like some scarves or shawls draped over those that people can see that I've hand woven. I love these little displays. I got these off of Etsy, and I have one that looks like that, one that looks like that, and there we go. And another one that looks like this. And those I'm going to be displaying finished products on. I think those are super cute and they were really well done. I stained them the same color as my folding shelf over there. They do just come in a plain pine. So you can either leave them plain and then they would match the crates, or you could paint them a color for your brand, or you could stain them. I chose to go with the stain and I think they turned out really neat looking, so I love those. I also have some pops of the metal to use for storing final products. Again, I'll talk more about that later too, but I'm thinking about having like some small hair accessories, maybe some stitch markers, maybe some stickers. So I have those out. I also have these picture frames. These are fairly small. They're like a 4x6 maybe sort of deal. And I'll change out the insert, but I want to put a little bit more information in these on what people are seeing out on display. It could be more information about how hand-spun yarn is made. It could be about my different lines of hand-dyed yarn, anything like that. And then I also have a slightly larger one of these with a mirror that I'm going to put the mirror into it and set that out so that people can have something to look at themselves if they want to try like a hat or a headband or something like that on. Again, I don't know how much finished product I'm going to have for the spring craft fair just because I'm really crunched for time. We'll get to that in a second. But I think especially at the fall and winter market, I'll definitely need to have the picture frame with the mirror in it. Then I've also got another basket for hand spun yarn right over here. I was actually using this to store some of my fiber in, but I needed another thing to elevate my my mannequin over here. And so I'm really actually liking the way that looks. It's just the right height, just the right size, and I can also use it to transport yarn as I go to the market. This is another Etsy purchase. It's a wasp waist mannequin. I'll see if I can drop in a link to that as well. I'm noticing how dirty it is now it's in the video, but that's okay. I'll get that cleaned up before the actual show. And this does come with a stand on it, but I didn't attach the stand. I kind of like it like this, but in other markets, if I want to actually stand in the corner, I can do that. I can attach the base. And then I'm going to put some sort of finished product on it. If you notice, this was my, I think it's called the interrupted cowl, maybe, that I did from my hand spun. So that's still on there for now, but I might do something different. I've got another sign, again, from Vistaprint. I'm not sure if I'll leave that up there or move it somewhere else, but it's fine for now. Another container on its side that I can use for putting product in. You already saw those. More tins, more tins. Yeah, so it pretty much looks like that. Now, I did have a couple of motives for putting up my space first. One of the big ones was trying to figure out how much inventory I needed to take with me. That's something, if you Google, everyone has a slightly different answer for, but the basic answer is take whatever you have. You can't sell it if you don't bring it. But that doesn't really tell me the minimum I need to make this a viable venture. So I figured one thing I could do, I can leave my setup here. I don't really get a lot of direct sunlight in this room, especially at this time of year, so I'm not really worried about any of the product fading or getting damaged. When it hits summer, I wouldn't want to leave it up in here unless I get some curtains or blinds, whatever, to go in the windows. But for now, I feel like it's okay. But I wanted to see what exactly I needed to make the space look full. Because in addition to whatever I have out on the table, I'm going to have enough product underneath the table. Oh, speaking of underneath the table, hang on a second. I did invest in these tablecloths. So the black ones, I still have to steam everything, so it's all wrinkly. I just took them out of the package. But the black ones are from Table Vogue, and they're just a polyester. I tried really hard to find a cotton floor-length tablecloth, and either they don't exist or they're like $200 a piece. It's absolutely ridiculous. But these, see, they're fine. They're fitted to the table. They fit the tables they were supposed to, so I'm happy with that purchase. They're a little expensive, but not too bad. The cotton tablecloths I put on top, I'm really happy with. These were a Hobby Lobby find at the end of last fall season. They were like 70% off, so they were highly reasonable. I'm a little sad I didn't grab more of them just to have replacements. They're not the best quality. There was a couple places where strings had started to pull out of them. But once you get everything on top, you can't really tell. So those are what the tables look like down below. So the reason why the tablecloths are important is because I'm going to want to be able to store extra product in bins underneath the tables. So then that way, if things start to sell during the day, which hopefully they do, I'll be able to restock the bins and everything so that it still continues to look full on both days of the market. It just looks a little bit better and you look a little bit more well prepared if your display doesn't go completely empty before the second day. So definitely going to have that as well. But that still doesn't really tell me like how much inventory I really need and how many I need of each product. So one of the things that I'm kind of working on figuring out is exactly what I'm going to sell and how much of each item I should bring. Now, spring craft fairs are a little notorious for not being great markets for fiber-related things. It's just getting toward warmer weather and people aren't thinking, yay, fuzzy hat. Sometimes you can still sell things like that, but generally speaking, fiber booths don't do as well in spring markets, at least from what I've gleaned from all of my research. So I'm kind of trying to focus on yarn because if you're a knitter or crocheter, you do that all year round regardless of the weather. You'll bring a ball of wool with you to the beach. So at least I do anyway. I don't know about everybody else. But then I've been kind of working on figuring out smaller products that I can make quickly, and that will be more like impulse type buys for people who get drawn into the booth and are like, ooh, pretty colors, but they're not a knitter or crocheter, that they might be interested in picking up as well. But that still leaves the question of how much of each item. And I keep circling back around to that because I haven't figured it out either. What I'm kind of doing is something that you're not supposed to do, and I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You want your booth, your store, your brand, whatever, to look like a cohesive collection. And so what you don't want to do is make one of 100 different types of thing, because when you walk into a booth that looks like that, it looks more like a flea market or a bargain bin or something like that. And it's just not cohesive, and people don't know where to look, and it's, you know, confusing on the eye, and then people walk out without buying anything, which is not what you want. But being the first market I've done at this particular place, and it being a spring market, I just don't know what's gonna sell. So I'm kind of making a variety of items and making between like 2 and 15, depending on what it is, in each item. So that still brings me to how much product I need to make it a viable venture. Now, I've seen a lot of different advice online. Some people just say, bring everything you have. But how much did you make? I don't know. Other people have said, as long as you make back your booth fee, they feel like that's been a pretty good market. But the problem with that is, let's say my booth fee was, you know, $100 and I sold $100 worth of product. Yeah, I've made back my booth fee, but I didn't make back any of the costs of the material that I used to create that $100 worth of product. And I didn't get paid for any of my time for making the product. And I didn't get paid for the 2 days I sat at my booth. I didn't get paid for the gas I used to get back and forth. It didn't help reimburse me for any of my display costs. So just making back your booth fee is not a high enough goal if you're going to go do something like this. Now, if you just want to go to the farmer's market and chat to people and maybe sell a scarf or two, that's fine. But if you actually want to build a business, you've got to aim a little bit higher. So other people suggested trying to make back 8 to 10 times your booth fee, which that is daunting, especially when the things that you're selling are only, you know, between $20 and $50 a piece. I'll do that math out for you. I've done it before, but I've already forgotten what the numbers are. I figured, again, being a spring market in my first one, I would then make kind of my profit goal 8 times the booth fee, which is still a lot. So it makes me a little bit nervous thinking about that. But if you want to make that number, whatever number it is, in profit, or at least in sales, you can't just bring that amount to sell. So they recommended that you then double the amount of double the amount of inventory that you then bring, at least in terms of the value. So I'll drop in the number somewhere on the screen of what that would mean bringing to market. So I didn't want to spend any more or much more money on making product, because I need to have the cash inflow in order to, again, purchase more in order to build my booth back up for markets later in the season. So what I'm working with is a closet full of undyed yarn. I've actually got some going on the stove right now. I figured in my closet, I've got somewhere around 250, I think it's like 246 bits of undyed yarn, not including stuff I had left over from last year's season. And I've got another mystery box downstairs that I know has yarn in it, but I don't know what type. So I've got to open that back up. So I might have more like 270 skeins of yarn that I can dye and put together. I also have another closet of unspun fiber. That's enough to make a lot more as well. So I'm going to really concentrate on getting everything in my closet dyed up. I'm starting with the lighter weight yarns first. A little bit later, either another video or later in this video, I'll actually run you through what yarn bases and things that I'm bringing and how I'm going to do all the pricing and all of that. But I'll wait on that for a little bit. So in order to kind of keep track of what I've done and what I have left to do, I'm going to create a spreadsheet. I might drop in a little video of me making it here, but my goal for this spreadsheet is to be able to track how much I've made, how much that inventory is worth, and then what my final profit is when I sell that. That's going to be really important for taxes. I did not do a really great job last year of keeping track of my cost of items, like what exactly I sold. I had a system and then it kind of broke down. So I'm doing a little bit of guessing for taxes this year, but I didn't really sell that much, so I don't think the tax people are going to care too much. But next year, or this year, I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit better. So that way I want something easier to track my actual profit for taxes for next year when I fill that out. So I'm going to do an inventory tracker like that. Like I said, I'll bring that up and show that to you. All right, guys, this is like the third time I've tried recording this video, but the microphone doesn't want to work. So hopefully we will make it through on this one, and now the puppy has decided to bark. But bear with me, it's gonna be great. So this is the really simple spreadsheet that I came up with for tracking my inventory while getting ready for this particular craft fair. It's nothing fancy. In fact, there are much cooler ones out there that actually will do the calculations for you. I'll see if I can find the name of the woman who did a craft fair video where she actually has a spreadsheet put together that you can download from her that has all the calculations in place. The only downside is that her version is really complicated. It has things on there that I just don't need. I think being able to have this one and being able to print it out and bring it to the craft fair with me will be a lot more practical than the one where it automatically adds everything up and tells you how much more you need to, how much more inventory you need to make in order to reach your goal and all of that good stuff. But I'll see if I can find her name and put it in here. But I made this in a Google Sheets, just using Google Drive. I like the fact that because it's cloud-based, I can access it from any device. And so it's just really easy to take with me and just really, really practical. I decided that it would be easiest in terms of tracking to have 3 different categories for what I'm bringing, just because what they entail is a little bit different, and it's just easier than trying to make them all fit on one page. So I've got one for my dyed yarn, one page for my dyed yarn. So I've got a place to record what base it is, what color I've dyed it. Of course, I have some colors that are just one-off colors. They're my happenstance collection, where I'm not making any more of them, either because they just weren't quite what I was going for. I don't want to make it one of my permanent colors, or what is more likely, that they're an unrepeatable colorway because I did something weird or forgot to write it down and I don't know how to make it anymore. So I'm trying to figure out how to record those as a color, but I'll figure that out later. Then, of course, I have my base cost. By base, this is the undyed yarn that I use. Obviously, each type of yarn has a different cost to it. And what I'm trying to figure out, if any of you out there own a business and track inventory, I'd love to hear from you in the comments on how you deal with this. But sometimes I get my yarn bases like on sale or for a different price, just because sometimes even as a wholesaler, the company will, run a special or something on a particular base and I get it for a little bit less. And so I'm trying to figure out how to have that change in price reflected in kind of my cost. Then, of course, cost of goods sold. When you're hand dyeing yarn, you don't just have the yarn base. You have cost for the acid that sets the dye itself, any packaging that goes into it. So that's all part of my cost of goods sold. That I have to kind of just estimate, make an estimate for it. And I keep it the same across all the different skeins of yarn, just because it would get really complicated if I was trying to figure out how much dye powder was used in each of the individual colorways and whatever. But so that's cost of goods sold. My price is obviously what I'm going to sell it for. There's a lot of different pricing strategies listed out there online. You just kind of look at it and figure out what one works best for you, which is really annoying. I hate it when other people say that to me, but it really is true. How long you've been dyeing, whether you have a brick and mortar shop or you're just dyeing online, or if you're doing it for fun versus a full-time job. Whether you sell wholesale and so you need a slightly higher retail price in order to compensate for the fact that somebody else takes a slice of the profit. You just got to figure out kind of your own pricing strategy there. But because you need to know for tax purposes how much your actual profit was, you don't want to pay taxes on the entire price of your product. You have to get rid of that cost of goods sold amount in there as well. So it's nifty to have a profit column. Then, of course, how much you brought with you, the quantity. And then I'm hoping to be able to print this off for the craft fair and just as I sell things, be able to make little tally marks to know how much I sold so I can see the popular bases, the popular colors. Of course, if it gets busy, when I get back home, I can just see what inventory I have left and can compare it against this as well. Um, Hand spun yarn was pretty similar. This has always been a little bit trickier for me to figure out the pricing on because every single skein is slightly unique. But I've decided I'm going to be really consistent with my skein weights. And so everything's either going to be 50 grams or 100 grams. And if I have to remove some of the fiber from the skein of yarn to make it consistent, that's fine. I'll keep all those scrap pieces, and then I can make, a sampler pack of hand spun yarn for like scrappy projects, or you can use it when, creating your own bats for hand spun yarn. It'll make like a really cool tweedy type of effect in there. So it doesn't have to go to waste, but having it consistent will make it easier for me to figure out a price. The yarn weight is a little bit different, but super, super important. This is like, is it fingering? Is it worsted? Is it bulky, super bulky, whatever? This is the part that matters kind of the most to me in pricing. I have one skein of yarn, which I absolutely adore. It's probably somewhere between a lace and a fingering weight. Merino silk blend. It's green, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The only trouble is that because I spun it so finely, and I did it, a while ago when I wasn't quite as fast as I am now, but it took me somewhere in the realm of about 30 hours to finish this one skein of yarn between spinning 100 grams worth of singles and then plying it all together. It took forever. Now, though, I can do bulky singles in 45 minutes for 100 grams. I could do, a 2-ply bulky in about an hour and a half or a little bit less. And so obviously the weight of your yarn makes a big difference in how long it takes you to actually create that product. So I think regardless of yardage, I'm just going to have everything fall into a yarn weight category and kind of a fiber base category. So, all of my merino worsted weights are going to be one amount. All of my silk and merino mixes that are bulky weight are going to be one amount, regardless of yardage that's inside of it. Now, I think I will still probably record the yardage on the yarn band. That's going to be a pain for packaging, but I'll kind of see if I can make it a little bit easier. Just because when it comes to knitting, you can compensate a little bit for weight and for, how thick the yarn is, but yardage is really what gives us the most information as a knitter or a crocheter or a weaver or whatever. And of course, the fiber cost of goods sold. This one doesn't have a lot else that goes into it. It's pretty much just the packaging. And the price, profit, quantity, and how many I've sold. So that's pretty standard. And then the handmade items are also pretty much the same. What pattern, or if it's pattern or item or however you want to phrase it. What materials went into it. If there's a color I need to know about. Cost of goods sold includes everything. If I'm making stitch markers, it could be the beads and the wire that go into it. Or if I'm making a coffee cup koozie, it could be the yarn and a snazzy button that goes into it. If it's jewelry, it could be the beads and the crochet thread, whatever it happens to be. So cost of goods sold. And again, price, profit, quantity, and how many I've sold total. So obviously I haven't started putting this together yet. My goal was to start really early and be able to get all my items in here and track it as I went along. However, time has caught up to me a little bit and I don't have nearly as much as I was hoping to have. But I'll check in with you guys a little bit later and I'll let you know kind of what I was able to accomplish. So hopefully this helps if you are trying to track your own items for a craft fair or for your online business. Then I'm also working on redesigning all of my packaging. So what I had been using from Vistaprint, I got these cute little cards printed. They're just business cards and it has like a blank back with my website on it, and punched a hole in the corner, and then I was writing all the information on the back. So this would work for any of my products. But the problem was that even if I was using, especially if I was using a Sharpie, it took forever to dry, and then I would sometimes smudge it and it would look bad, so I'd have to start over. So I wasted a card, I wasted time. I'd question my spelling. If I changed my mind on a price, I had to go and like redo a card. And so I just not a huge fan of these. They're also kind of awkward on the products themselves. Like, let's see if I can grab one. So here's some hand spun yarn, and it just kind of hangs off, and it's, I don't know, I'm just not a big fan. I feel like I need better packaging. So I'm working on redesigning my packaging using Canva. Again, I'll see if I can slip in a video somewhere about how I'm doing that. Trying to think what else I have to do. So basically, finish figuring out my display, get set on what product I'm going to sell, create an inventory tracker to track how much product I've actually made and how much more I need to go, and redo my packaging. And then when I get closer, I want to give myself at least a week to put any finishing touches on pieces, to be able to load everything up neatly. I've got to be able to fit all this in my car, so I have to figure out how I'm going to safely transport all of my stuff. I should be able to go and set up on Friday. I'm hoping to be able to leave work a little bit early on Friday to go up to Fredericksburg. And then the market is on Saturday and Sunday. So I have, not counting this weekend, it's Sunday right now. I've got 4 full weekends before the weekend of the craft market. So I'm gonna have to look at everything I have to do and split that up into 4 weekends. Just to see how much I have to accomplish kind of each week in order to be on track for the craft show. So exciting stuff. So thank you for sticking in with me so far. I will update you when I have another update. So check in later. Bye. Oh my goodness, guys. I cannot believe how fast time has gone by. Now, I signed up for this craft fair kind of end of January, beginning of February. And at the time, I told myself that I have plenty of time. It's 2 months. It's 8 weeks or so. Whew, they have gone by super fast. Now, even though I've hit a little bit of a panic mode right now, I've got to say I'm fairly proud of what I've accomplished. And so if you're trying to get ready for your own craft show, craft fair, whatever, make sure, especially when you're starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed, that you stop and give yourself a major pat on the back for what it is you've actually accomplished. So, end of January, I set a goal for February. And my goal for February was that I was going to work on something business related every single night. And that kind of unofficially carried over into March as well. But at that point, I was overwhelmed enough that I didn't bother tracking it on a chart or anything. But I've got to say, I think I only missed 2, maybe 3 nights in February where I didn't get anything done. And I don't think I've had a single night in March, at least a night in March where I didn't have my other night job to go to, where I didn't do something that was craft fair related. And I didn't quite meet all of my goals for production, but I think I've hit most of the goals that were important, I guess. The really hard thing is I just don't know how much to bring. You know, I keep looking at pictures of various yarn booths up on, Pinterest or Instagram or wherever. And part of the problem is that I don't see exactly what I have. I just realized there's trash sitting on the windowsill behind me over here. You can see what my nights have been like when I've got a Pepsi and a Starbucks sitting in one place. Anyway, so sorry I get distracted so easily at this point. I've been looking at pictures of other people's booths, but a lot of what I'm seeing and a lot of the formulas that I'm seeing are people who are concentrating on just making ready-made, ready-to-wear type of items. And a lot of the yarn booths that I've seen are either one 6-foot table with just, 20 or 30 skeins of yarn out. And then on the other side of that, there are booths that look like shops in and of themselves. There's gotta be thousands of skeins of yarn and who knows how many different colors. And so there's no formula to tell me how much I need. So I'm feeling a little panicky, but you can see behind me, I've made some fairly decent progress. Not all of it is all skeined up, and I've got probably another 20 something skeins waiting downstairs, plus things that I've made. So I don't know, I'm hoping that inventory is going to be okay. But anyway, I should probably tell you this. we're at Monday at this point, hence me feeling, I'm so sorry about the puppy in the background, I apologize. She always waits until I start talking and then she starts barking because she wants attention. Hopefully it'll stop soon. It'll be fine. Anyway, it's Monday. Craft show starts on Saturday. So what I told myself was whatever I got spun or dyed as of yesterday on Sunday was all I was going to do. I was going to leave this week all for packaging. Now I do have some yarn on the stove right now that's left over from yesterday that I dyed that I have to rinse that out and get it hung up to dry. I kind of want to do one more color tonight and maybe even one more color tomorrow just because I feel like I don't have as much of my bulkier kind of winter weight yarns. I just want to make a little bit more of that. The only problem is A, it takes time away from doing all the packaging and the rest of the prep work. But also the later we get, the less likely it's actually going to dry by Saturday. The weather turned super cold again, which means that everything's taking absolutely forever to dry. What I've been doing with the last couple batches of yarn is I have in one of my bathrooms, there's a towel bar that's right above my heating vent. And so it's a little bit colder, so the heat's been kicking on. So I put the yarn above the heating vent and that helps it dry a little bit as well. But I might, like I said, I might do one more color tonight, breaking my rule. But I figure all else fails, if it doesn't dry, then I just won't bring it with me. I'll leave it here and I'll have it left over for something else. I've also told myself that my afternoons after school, even though it's report card weeks, I gotta finish those up too. But my afternoons, I was going to spend them getting everything tagged and organized so that I can pack it away. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot there. I still want to make a little bit more inventory, but I'm afraid that if I concentrate on making inventory, then it'll end up like Thursday, Friday night, and I won't have anything packaged, and then I won't have anything to sell, period. So I told myself I can only work on adding more inventory when I'm relaxing in bed at night after I'm too tired to finish doing this, which I think is going to be helpful twofold. First of all, it'll keep me focused on finishing up this mess because I don't want to. And because I want to do a little bit more inventory prep, it'll mean that I'll convince myself to go to bed at a decent time, at least get a little relaxing time in so that I'm not up until, midnight, 1, 2 in the morning every night trying to get this all finished. So yeah, that's where I am right now. I'll see if I can maybe take some footage later of me doing some last minute printing out of tags and things like that. But I've got to figure out exactly how I want to tag it because I've redone all of my tags. I think I showed you my old tags earlier. They were business cards printed by Vistaprint. And then I wrote on the back, I want to actually do printed ones. So, all right, I will check in a bit and show you how all the labeling's doing.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take.
Hey guys, I'm standing here at the back of my car and I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little concerned on a couple of fronts. So first of all, today is Friday. The craft fair is tomorrow, so yay, that's gonna be exciting. My house is looking a lot better as I dismantle everything and take it apart. But here's my areas of concern. Number one, I'm not ready. The best thing I ever did though is take today off of work. This was report card week. I knew I was gonna be running behind. I knew I was gonna be doing report cards until midnight last night, and I was. So I asked for today off. I never do that, but it's been great because I got to sleep in a little bit, slept until 8. And then I have been working on tagging, which I've gotten absolutely nowhere. It's taking forever. But I just don't know what else to do about that. So what I'm gonna do is pack up my car and head up to Fredericksburg. And then when I get back, then I'm gonna finish all of my tagging. And then I've got a bunch of half-finished products that need to be finished. But at least at that point, if everything I have is tagged, even if I don't finish anything else, at least there's something to go put on my table. So being finished is one area of concern. The second area of concern, so when I told my mom I was doing this, don't tell her I said this, but she was all like, how are we gonna get everything up there? I'm like, I'm gonna put it in the car. It's fine. Well, what I forgot was that I bought a boatload more crates than what I usually have for like my like farmer's market or whatever. And they take up a lot of room. So that's, I don't know if you can see, that's what my car looks like. I'm 85% sure I can actually get the lift gate down without like breaking anything. 85's a B, right? It's fine, it's fine. This isn't all my stuff. So my front seat is also pretty packed. I have my spinning wheel up there and my mannequin. I only have 2 tubs of product buried. I don't even see, it's back there somewhere. Only have 2 things of product. What I'm gonna do is go up and unpack that, bring those tubs back, and then refill them up and bring them back up tomorrow. Praying that I sell some stuff, because if I don't, there's no way all this is getting back in the car with me. I also have a third one of those big Rubbermaid containers upstairs, and if I have to fit all 3 in the car, there's no way. I could stack them though, and they would make it that way. So I don't know. You know what? I'm just gonna kind of go for it and pray that it all works out. And I also don't have my checkout stand. Now I was planning on, I have one of those like rolling carts from IKEA, and it's got like a flat top on it that I really like, and I was gonna use that as my checkout stand. However, I'm thinking when I get up there, I might just rearrange my booth a little bit so I can have my checkout stand behind my crates, and that way that's one less thing I have to stick in the car. So I don't know. We'll give it a try, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. All right. So next time I see you, I'll be up in Fredericksburg. All right. So I'm here in the parking lot. Our email said to park on the right-hand side of the building. So they had a little vendor load-in sign with an arrow on it. So I came over here and parked. Looks like there's a big garage door that people are walking in and out of. And the email also said that the organizer and possibly some carts will be up in the front lobby. Have no idea where that is, but I think I'm gonna leave everything in my car and just go figure out where my booth is, get the lay of the land, and hopefully be able to grab a cart and figure out what's going on. So, all right, here it goes. All right, so it's not the safest thing I've ever done, but I'm currently sitting in the drive-thru of the Starbucks. It's about 5:30-ish. I just left the Expo Center a few minutes ago. That took forever. I hand carried most of my stuff in because I didn't have a cart, but then, God bless them, somebody found me a cart. So that was my last trip. I could wheel it in rather than just carry it all. So I got my yarn that I brought all set up. I got the stuff tagged that I had brought with me. And I don't know how I feel. I feel like I haven't brought enough stuff, and yet at the same time, there's not enough room to display everything. So I just gotta get through tomorrow and Sunday, and I think I might have to rethink my booth space. Now I've been looking at like some more professional type like wood setups with like shelves. It makes it look more like a mini store, which I think those are really cool, but you also get more space with like the metal racks, but like metal, like the grid wall sorts of deals. But the problem with those is that they don't have that kind of cottage core, organic, down home on the farm sort of feel. So I don't know if having the extra space is worth it. All right, so the line is moving, so I'm gonna pull forward, but I will check in and show you the list of stuff I have to do when I get home. I'm so tired. Okay, see you guys later.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't.
All right, here I am with a little bit of an update. It's now Sunday at about 3:30. The fair just ended about 30 minutes ago. I didn't get a chance to film anything last night or this morning. Yesterday, by the time I was finished, I was absolutely exhausted, could barely stay awake. Stopped and got a coffee and some snacks from the gas station, went home, walked the dogs, and then went to sleep. And I slept all night until I got up this morning. Fortunately, the fair didn't start until 10, so I was able to sleep in a little bit longer. However, that meant that I was running late, and I only got here with about 15 minutes to spare, which also meant that the parking lot next to the conference center was already full. So I'm sitting in my car waiting for some people to clear out. I think there are a few open parking spaces now. There are some operations that work like a well-oiled machine. They've got a couple of people. They've, by the time somebody returns with the hand cart, everybody else has the booth broken down, and it takes them like 15 minutes to pack up and get out. So figured I would do a little recap while I was waiting for that to clear out a little bit. I did one load of stuff to my car right over there. I have no idea how I'm going to fit everything else in here. I was banking on selling a little bit more than I did. I wouldn't say it was a complete failure and bust, but it certainly was not lucrative. I haven't added up what I made today, but I think I'm probably sitting in the $500 to $600 range of sales over the last 2 days, which, considering how much the booth fee was, is not super impressive. So profits were like non-existent or not great, but I did have a good time in general. It was kind of nice to see how this works here. I did sign up for both of their fall fairs, so I'm hoping that people spend a little bit more at that time. A lot of the vendors I talked to said that, spring fairs, everybody says this, don't do quite as well. People are hanging on to their money a little bit more. I think their fall markets too also don't let in non-handmade goods, which I think will help a little bit. You saw a lot of people walking around with, plastic toys that came from China. You saw, Virginia peanuts that you can buy in like any specialty shop. Lots of kettle corn. These pillows that I couldn't quite tell what they were. I looked like they're cooling pillows or something. And somebody must have done covers for them and kind of, I don't want to say tacky fabric, but apparently some people like them. But they're not really my style. But you didn't really see a lot of other stuff being sold. So the soap lady across from me did do well though. So I'm going to try again in the fall. Hopefully the farmers markets go well this summer as well. So I'm looking forward to those. I'm sure I'll think of a few more things to say when I get home and do a little recap all in all. But yeah, I just wanted to say hi from the parking lot. So check in later. So here it is, Saturday again. I cannot believe that a week has already gone by since my market started. I still haven't gotten a chance to really reorganize myself yet. Not only have I been working every day, but I've also had night shifts almost every day this week, except for one. So I haven't even gotten a chance to unpack my car yet. I've taken things out of the front seat. I've taken out things that I just couldn't leave in the car, but most of my display and a couple tubs of stock are still in the back. That'll be my project for tomorrow, but I wanted to go ahead and get this video done. I just wanted to get everything down before I had forgotten anything that was really important, partially because I wanted to share that with you guys since you came with me on this journey, but also to help myself remember, so when I go to prepare for my next event, I can look back and kind of remind myself of what went well and what didn't go so well. So overall with this market, it was both a success and a horrible failure. I would still do it again. I think it was a really great learning experience. However, it wasn't really all that profitable. I knew I wasn't going to make a ton. Everyone always says spring craft fairs are really tough. People are a little bit tighter with their money. They hold on to it a little bit more. And a lot of other people at the market this time also said that even compared to other spring markets, they didn't make quite as much money. People weren't buying quite as much. So that part was a little bit tough. I haven't calculated my actual profits yet, but I think once I take out the booth fee and all of my material expenses and gas and all of that good stuff, I think I'm going to have pretty much broken even. So it was a waste kind of sort of in terms of time. Like I didn't make any profit off all the time that I put into preparing for the market and creating the items themselves. But at least I didn't end up any further in the hole. So like I said, it wasn't as profitable as I would have liked, but at the same time, it was a really great learning experience. So I'm glad I still did it. A series of things. One thing I learned, actually got a whole list of things I learned. But I think one key part of all of this is the fact that a lot of what people were choosing to buy in the spring were items that were ready-made or things that people might have designed or picked out, but then it was created by another person or another company. There were a lot of t-shirts, there were, you know, those kind of like those flags that you put out in your yard as a decoration or on the front of your house. Those are really popular. Saw a lot of people who are buying things like Whitley's Peanuts, which you can go to any novelty store in Virginia and buy yourself a container of those. The cheese spreads from a couple of booths down were really popular. I considered going down and getting some cheese spread myself, but yeah, I didn't know how to keep it refrigerated until I actually got home. But I think it's really important that if you're selling handmade items, that you look for markets that are exclusively handmade items, because then people are going to be going there with the idea that they're going to be spending on something that someone spent hours and hours creating, something that was locally made. And I think in that case, they have a little bit more of a mindset that they're willing to spend a little bit more money. But when they have the options of things that are purchased kind of wholesale and then just sold without the personalized element, without being local, having that as competition, it just makes the handmade market a little bit harder, if that makes sense. And I actually had someone, I think she's exaggerating a little bit, or she hadn't looked around very much, but I did have one woman who stopped and talked to me, and as she was walking away, she said something to the effect of like, this is only the third booth I've seen that doesn't have imported crap. So it was nice that I didn't have imported crap, in her words, but at the same time, it kind of shows you what the competition was, so that is kind of hard. I did sell a little bit of a mix of items, sold some yarn, sold some pre-made items. There wasn't really one thing that did a lot better than others. A lot of people did look at the pre-made stuff. I put that right on the end, so that way people who weren't sucked in by the pretty colors of yarn in the back would see those and take a look at them. But not a lot of people bought them, even though they stopped and they looked at it and they picked it up and they touched it. I think those items are going to do better at the farmer's market. They were really reasonably priced, perhaps even underpriced for really what they were worth. You know, they were between like $7 and $15. I had market bags for, I think, $30. And they're all made out of 100% cotton or a cotton and linen blend. I think if I had had better signage on them that said that they were hand crocheted by me, or that it was 100% cotton or a cotton linen blend, I think that would have helped a lot. I'm going to talk more about signs in a minute. I did try to talk to as many people as I could who I saw pick those items up, but I think being in an outdoor farmer's market sort of vibe with better signage, I think those are going to do a little bit better. At least I hope so. I also had a lot of people who looked at my yarn that came in, they touched the yarn, they oohed and awed over the colors. A lot of people took cards, even if they didn't purchase right then. But a lot of people commented that, you know, they had enough yarn in their stash and they couldn't let themselves buy any more, or they would love to buy more, but they didn't know what they were going to make next, so they didn't want to buy yarn without knowing what it was going to be used for. And some people kind of made the comment of, oh, you know, I'm just starting knitting and, you know, I really love all this, but right now I'm just buying the cheap stuff from Walmart because, you know, I don't want to waste money on the good stuff until I'm really good at it. And so I try to engage those people in conversations, and I made a few sales by being sales savvy without trying to push. I don't like when people pressure me into buying something, so I don't want to do that to somebody else either. I don't want them to regret their purchase. That's not the vibe that I want them to take away. But people were really lovely about all of that. I think it'll really help if in the fall I have more, and that was my plan anyway, to have more and larger ready-made items, so hats and scarves and cowls and things like that. I did have a few samples of things that I had price tags on that people could see and touch and whatnot, and I think that helped in people visualizing how the yarn would work up and how it would feel. But I think having more ready-made items where I say, oh yeah, this is the color, or this is what the fabric looks like when you've knitted or crocheted it or whatever. And also having more samples and patterns would really help as well. I know I'm easily swayed when I go to a yarn shop and I see, you know, a beautiful sweater or a shawl or a hat or something, like, oh, I want that pattern. Oh, that's the yarn it was made out of. And so I'll take a picture of the pattern so I can purchase the pattern online if they're not selling it a hard copy in the store, and then I'll buy the yarn right there. So I think if I have some of my own patterns, or at least things made up with patterns listed that people can purchase from others online, I think that'll really help convince people to buy some more yarn. And I also think I'm going to try to have more accessories for knitters. That was my plan for this fair, but just like everything else, it took so much time to get my base products down that I didn't have a chance to expand. But I think a lot of times if you are already a knitter or a crocheter, while it's hard to justify buying another skein of yarn when you already have a whole closet full of stash at home, you can justify buying a new stash bag or some new stitch markers or things like that that help you create without buying more of the raw product. So I would like to expand and have some more of that. I have actually had also a lot of people asking about fiber for felting. I think over COVID, a lot of people tried out felting and have really enjoyed it. So both of the farmers markets last year and the spring market, people were looking for fibers to felt. And so I did sell some of my, the Rolags, the silk and merino Rolags I had made, and some other fiber that I had. So I think I might try putting together some hand-dyed fibers that are specifically smaller pieces meant for felting. I could maybe even do a kit with some felting needles and, you know, the bat for on the back and maybe do a pattern or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I've also been considering doing some embroidery kits, you know, either drawing up some patterns or creating some cross-stitch patterns and then hand dyeing either silk or some wool that would be appropriate for like crewel work, crewel embroidery. I think that would be really neat to do. A lot of people are wanting to do things themselves to get a little bit more artistic. And I also sold out of drop spindle kits as well. People were really excited about those. And so I think I'm gonna put some more of those together as well. In addition to kind of thinking about my inventory, I also wanna keep thinking about my display. I'll see if I can put I took a video of what my display looked like. I'll see if I can put it in here. I really liked the way that ended up looking. It had a lot of woods, it had a lot of the kind of rustic metal accents, and I liked that look. It's that kind of rustic cottage chic look that I was going for. However, the problem is that all those crates aren't collapsible, and I have to put everything in my car unless I want to rent something to go to a fair or to a market. And with having all those crates in there, especially if it's an outdoor market, I have to get my tent in there too. It doesn't leave a lot of room for product or anything else. So I'm still kind of considering what it is I want to do. I'm thinking about trying out a single 8-foot table setup for when I do the farmers markets to make it a little bit easier for transporting stuff. But yeah, it just not enough room in the car. And I actually on Saturday night, took home some stock that I restocked my display and then took everything else home, figuring that I probably wouldn't need it. Sales were slow anyway. Took at home some extra display items that I could do without. Took home my spinning wheel as well, just because I was worried about getting everything back in the car on the way home. And thank goodness I did, because everything just barely fit in the car. But I did find it was really essential to have my spinning wheel, and if not my spinning wheel, at least my drop spindle, although the spinning wheel was better, because a lot of people stopped and asked questions, which I really want to encourage. Talked to a lot of kids. Kids were really excited about seeing it. A lot of people are like, I didn't even know they made spinning wheels now. I had one guy stop me and he's like, wow, how old is your spinning wheel? I'm like 3 years old. He's like, I didn't even know they made them anymore. So it's kind of neat to show the process behind what you make. I think it gives people a greater appreciation for why something costs so much when they see what it takes to actually do it. So I think that was a lot of fun. And then I also had my drop spindle right next to me. I ran out of fiber eventually, but whenever somebody would be like, wow, that's so cool, I'd be like, wait, if you don't want to buy a spinning wheel, check out one of these guys. And by the way, they're for sale right over there. I think that's why I sold so many. So I thought that was really great. But again, if I don't rethink my display, I'm not going to be able to consistently get my whole spinning wheel also in the car. So I think that's really important to do too. Signs are also really key. Everything you watch on like I can't even talk anymore, on market prep videos, all the checklists, everybody's like signage, signage, signage. And I agree, but I ran out of time. And so I had just my, my canvas signs, but those weren't really enough. I had my one cool one that says handmade yarn, but then people thought that all of my hand-dyed stuff was also hand spun. And so that was just really tough, kind of explaining what was hand spun, what was hand dyed. I think if I had 2 different signs, it would have made a little bit more sense. Again, some items like the drop spindles, if I had, drop spindles this price, or try it yourself, or I don't know. I just feel like if I had more signage, people could have looked at that and then thought of questions to ask about the product, or if I was talking to somebody else and couldn't stop and answer their question right then, I think that would have engaged them for a little bit longer. Also, things like I carry Euroflax, and I actually didn't sell any of those. They were only $6 a skein. They were really cool. I had mini skeins of those. But I think if I had had a sign out that talked about linen and how linen is made and why linen is such a great fiber to have, and it feels really stiff right now, but here's a sample that I knit and washed a couple of times. This is what it's going to feel like eventually. I think having those extra tactile elements and the extra information is going to be really important to educating people and to also making more sales. With all of that, leaving enough time for everything is going to be really important as well. I am one of those people who I always underestimate how long something is going to take me to do. And so I left myself a week for all of my pricing, but seriously, it took an entire afternoon to take everything from just hanks and then to twist them. It was ridiculous. And then I ended up having to take most of my product with me on Saturday morning when I got to the craft fair, because I literally stayed up all night Friday night putting labels on stuff. And I didn't end up bringing everything with me because there was some stuff I didn't have time to actually label. So however long you think it's going to take you to put price tags on stuff, quadruple it, leave yourself plenty of time, or, have a bunch of labels printed out ahead of time, and then as you make something, stick the label on it. That's just, put labels on early. It was also really a godsend to be able to set up on Friday as well, because I think that made Saturday a little bit more relaxed. If I had stayed up all night pricing things on Friday and then had to still carry everything in and set up on Saturday morning, I never would have made it. I would have collapsed from exhaustion. So if you could ever get a chance to set up the day before, it really is worth doing that. Let's see what else is on my list. Oh yeah, so I made that really cool inventory sheet, and then I didn't use my inventory sheet. I never got a chance to finish cataloging the pre-made items, all my koozies and stuff, and so I just kind of forgot to print it out. But that meant I didn't really have anything good to write on, to record things as people purchased it, / I kind of was tired and forgot to do it anyway. But actually having that inventory list with me, I think would have been super helpful, because now as I'm trying to figure out what was most popular in terms of sales and colors and whatnot, and to try to calculate my profit, it's going to be a pain to go back and recreate that inventory list. It was also really essential. I ended up having kind of a thin, not Tupperware, but a Rubbermaid container. It's yay deep, and kind of wide. And that was my craft fair kit. I think I might leave that packed as a craft fair kit all the time, and that way I can just grab it and go to markets and stuff and have my square reader and the square reader charging card and a package of tissues, and I'll actually do a video or a blog post or something on everything I had in there. This particular time around, I'm not going to show you because I basically just was this stuff all looks like it should go to a craft fair, and I just tossed it all in, so it was a mess. But I had scissors and an X-Acto knife and extra labels and string and yarn and glue and so anything I thought I might possibly need. But like I said, I'll do another post on that later, once I actually get it together and it's usable at every market I go to and not just a panicked mess. Let's see what else. Now, I am still going to do the fall, there's a fall craft and home and craft something market up in Fredericksburg at the Expo Center. So I'm still going to do that, and I'm going to do the holiday fair. I'm a little bit nervous about the fall fair because it still does allow non-handmade items. You can sell third-party stuff. You can just set up with anything. But the holiday one is strictly handmade items only. So I'm kind of curious to see what the difference is in those two fairs, being at a similar time of year, but one allowing commercially mass-produced items and one only allowing handmade stuff. I did contact the organizer and ask to add on a corner booth. My booth was between a eucalyptus oil remedy type of booth, and then the booth on the other side of me was empty. Nobody ever showed up to it, which is kind of nice because then people would stop on the other side of the little 3-foot rail and chat with me. But it made it kind of hard because like people would lean across the rail to touch things on my display, and they were like behind me, and I don't know, it just made me uncomfortable. I didn't really like that. But what I've done is I've added on a corner booth. It's only $25 extra, so I figured that would be worth it. And so then that way I can really rethink my display. It'll be a little more open. People can walk in on 2 sides of my display, or I can have them, put my tables along the edge and then stand behind it. I don't know. I just feel like that's gonna give me a little bit more in terms of options and make it a little bit easier for me to fit my spinning wheel or whatever. So I'm excited about that. I did not sign up for the Christmas in July market. Just because the one review I could find online about that market was that someone said they said that if you're going to do a Christmas craft fair in July, it needed to be a Christmas fair. Like you couldn't just call it a Christmas fair. Like there needed to be music and people needed to actually be selling Christmas themed items. But apparently that year that person went who left the review, like it was just a craft fair. There weren't a lot of Christmas themes to it. So I figured that wouldn't really be worth it. And in the middle of summer, people probably aren't yet in gift buying mode or ready to decorate their houses. So I didn't figure that would be worth doing. I'm also still waiting to hear back on a couple of fiber festivals, but I don't think I'll hear from them real soon. Just have my fingers crossed because those are hard to get into. Most of the time they invite back everyone who had been with them previously, which only leaves maybe a handful of spaces. So it's really, really competitive, and a lot of it depends on what's already being sold. So if there are only 3 people doing the thing that you want to do, chances are you're not going to be able to get in. So I'm hoping Handspun's not too represented, so maybe I have a chance. I don't know, fingers crossed on that. And then I might look for some more fall or Christmas markets as well. We'll see how farmers markets go this summer, and we'll make a decision on that later. So overall, I feel like it was a great experience. Markets last year, like all my farmers markets, were a really great chance to try something new and kind of get over that initial fear of putting yourself out there. But this year, I really want to push myself more and want to have a chance to really refine what I'm doing and boost the number of things that I have available. So as time goes on, we'll have some more events that I'm going to prep for coming up, and I'll tell you all about those. But for now, I'm going to go unload my car, finally. Thanks for sticking with me. If you have any questions or any good ideas, or you want to say how your own spring craft fairs went, please leave a comment down in the comment section, and I'll try to get back to everybody. But see you guys later.